All right, everybody, I am stunned. I am just genuinely flabbergasted at the way this administration is acting during a war that they started. Karoline Leavitt is not only patronizing and condescending and snapping on reporters, but she's doing this without even being able to answer the question of what is the goal of this war. Did we kill 160 school children, and why is Trump seemingly lying about it? There's even a moment where she defines the end goal of this mission as whatever Trump claims it is. So that means it is by definition going to be another endless long-term war because there's no actual goal other than whatever the hell Trump defines it as on any given day. That's what really pisses me off about this, is that Karoline Leavitt, Pete Hegseth, Donald Trump, Marco Rubio, and everyone else in the MAGA movement by extension have proven time and time again they have no core guiding principles. They don't actually give a shit about anything. I mean, I saw this clip from Fox News this morning. Let me just tell you, this clip genuinely blew my mind. We have a Fox News host arguing that the United States citizenry should not care about gas prices going up, should not care about U.S. troops dying, because back in World War II, 250,000 casualties were had just for one battle. He says something to the effect of, oh, we lost 250,000 people during this battle in World War II. Are we really complaining about gas prices? And in my mind, that's the dumbest point I've ever heard. Again, they are treating this war as if it was some sort of inevitability, like our homeland is being attacked and we got drug into this. That is not what happened. Donald Trump, Netanyahu, Pete Hegseth, Marco Rubio, they willingly started this war. Netanyahu and Donald Trump pulled us into this war, and now they're acting as if they didn't start it at all. I'm going to break this all down. Make sure you drop a like. Make sure you subscribe to the Adam Mockler feed. By the way, I will be on CNN tonight at 9 p.m. Central, 10 p.m. Eastern to debate on Abby Phillip Newsnight. Again, CNN tonight at 10 p.m. Eastern. And let's start off with this Fox News clip where he's talking about the Battle of Okinawa.
You know, we were reminded earlier today that if you turn the clock back to World War II, that the battle for Okinawa, one island, 470 square miles, took 86 days. And 250,000 casualties. So for gas prices to go up a little bit is suddenly raising so much concern. I mean, think of how much worse it was in World War II than what we're facing now.
That's not what I want to think about. I don't want to compare my quality of life to World War II peak wartime with Nazi Germany. And by the way, World War II was a very, very justified intervention from the United States. After Pearl Harbor, we intervened to fight the damn Nazis. That is one thing. But to just start a random war with Iran when we were mid-negotiation, the Iranian regime is awful, by the way. The leaders in Iran are awful. But to just start a random, endless, forever war and then to compare it to World War II, someone in the reply says, this is the most idiotic thing I've ever heard. If you take those numbers and apply them to Iran, which is 636,000 square miles, then there will be many, many more deaths than the 250,000 casualties we saw during World War II or the battle for Okinawa. So it's just absurd that they're talking about casualties or they're talking about deaths in a framework of World War II. But let's continue. Karoline Leavitt then takes the stage and begins giving a press conference in which she describes the objective of this mission to be whatever the commander-in-chief determines it as. On its face, this doesn't sound very scary or wrong, but when I explain it after, you'll realize that this is quite literally the worst framework to enter a war with.
But ultimately, the operations will end when the commander-in-chief determines the military objectives have been met, fully realized, and that Iran is in a position of complete and unconditional surrender, whether they say it or not.
Does the president still want Iran's unconditional surrender?
Well, when President Trump says that Iran is in a place of unconditional surrender, he's not claiming the Iranian regime is going to come out and say that themselves. What the president means is that Iran's threats will no longer be backed by a ballistic missile arsenal that protects them from building a nuclear bomb in their country. I could make an empty threat, but if I have no actions to back...
Okay, there's a few things that Karoline Leavitt is admitting right here. When she says the operation will only end when the commander-in-chief determines that the military objectives have been met, she's signaling a few things. First of all, Trump will simply declare victory whenever he wants and say that was the end of the war. If we don't have any actual defined military objectives, that allows Trump to just declare victory over anything. Is it regime change? Is it ICBMs? Is it nuclear capabilities? We don't know, and Trump doesn't care. He will just declare victory. But number two, this also indicates to me that this will likely be one of those forever never-ending wars. There's something called mission creep. It's a lot like lifestyle creep. If you ever heard of lifestyle creep, it's when you start making more money. Say you go from making $50,000 a year to $65,000 a year, but that increase in money doesn't really mean anything because your lifestyle begins to get more expensive and begins to creep up on you, and you start to eat out more and you start to travel more. So basically, it's like nothing. There's the same thing with military missions. It's called mission creep, where you come in with one initial objective, one initial goal, and before you know it, it slowly creeps up on you. It slowly rises, and you're 1 year into the mission. Then you're 14 months into the mission, then you're 16 months into the mission, and the initial objective has been completely skewered because your guys' objectives have been, guided into another direction. We've seen this happen very recently as Afghanistan and Iraq. We got in there with some sort of goal, some objective at least, and mission creep began to happen. How long were we in Afghanistan for? 20 years? We spent trillions of dollars? Perfect example of mission creep. The best way to put it is, nobody tries to start an endless war, but many wars become endless when the mission creeps up on you like that. Karoline Leavitt then talks about Donald Trump's phone call with Vladimir Putin. I honestly find it despicable, disgraceful, and disgusting that our president, Donald Trump, the U.S. president, is taking friendly phone calls with arguably our number one, maybe number two enemy, and acting like that enemy isn't actively funding Iran. The reporting shows that Vladimir Putin and Russia, they're providing Iran with intelligence to target and kill U.S. forces. And Donald Trump has a friendly phone call with Putin where he thinks Putin's on our side. So easily manipulatable Trump is.
Thanks, Karoline. The president said yesterday that President Putin told him he wanted to be helpful in the Middle East. The Kremlin put out a statement where Putin said, quote, "I would like to reaffirm our unwavering support for Tehran and our solidarity with Iranian friends." How does the president think that Russia could be helpful, if not helping Iran? And did the president push Putin on Russia sharing intelligence with Iran in this war?
The president and his special envoy Witkoff have both said that, of course, they've sent a message to Russia that if that was taking place, it's not something they would be happy with, and they hope that it is not taking place. As for further details about the discussions between these two leaders, I'll leave it to the president to.
What is this weak bullshit? If it is taking place, it's not good if it takes place. What kind of messaging is this coming from the United States? Number one, our own intelligence says it is taking place. So I believe it is taking place. These are intelligence officials that haven't been captured by Trump that are saying, hey, Russia is providing Iran with intelligence to target our troops. And you know what the United States response is from Karoline Leavitt? It's not immediately end this or we will target you next. No, it's not that. It's not, we're going to sanction the hell out of your country if you kill a single troop. It's not that. It's not any sort of threat. It's, if this is happening, that would be bad. This is what pisses me off about, well, a lot of things piss me off lately about this war, but about this administration's posturing towards other countries is that they'll go so incredibly soft on our enemies. They'll say, if this is happening, that would be a very bad thing. But then when the prime minister of like Norway doesn't ask for Trump to get the Nobel Peace Prize, Trump throws a fit, threatens them with tariffs, leaks their text messages, acts like they're the enemy of America because he, in his mind, wrongly thinks that they can just give him the Nobel Peace Prize. Can you imagine this? This is some absolutely insane, absurd behavior, especially at a time when Russia is providing Iran with intelligence. Leavitt then decides to threaten Iran. And in this threat, she kind of gives away the game. She gives away the entire thing the Trump administration has cared about. So we just got reporting moments ago that Iran is laying mines in the Strait of Hormuz. So ships can't pass through, laying mines at the Strait of Hormuz so people are too scared and don't want to transfer any oil. So Karoline Leavitt and Donald Trump and Pete Hegseth quite literally only care about gas prices and the stock market. Even then, they don't really care that much. But that's the main thing that will politically affect them. So Karoline Leavitt is giving lazy attacks, launching lazy threats against Iran due to this issue.
As the president made unequivocally clear to the remaining elements of this terrorist regime in his statement yesterday, if they do anything to stop the flow of oil or goods within the Strait of Hormuz, they will be hit by the world's most powerful military 20 times harder than they have been hit thus far. Moving forward.
Okay, wait. Donald Trump just said yesterday the war is over. He literally said yesterday the war is winding down, and now they're saying we're going to hit them 20 times harder that they've been hit thus far. What the absolute hell? Then Karoline Leavitt is confronted on Donald Trump's incoherence, the fact that he wants to pick a new leader in one breath, but that it's over in the next breath, but then it's not actually regime change in the next breath. You can't have all of these things.
Karoline, you outlined to Steve the military components of what would be involved in ending this war, but it seems like there's a political component too. The president said to Fox earlier today that he doesn't believe the new Ayatollah can live in peace. He made a variety of comments suggesting that he should be involved in picking the new Iranian leader. Is the ending of this war also contingent on Iran selecting a leader that the president finds acceptable? And if so, how is that not the definition of a regime change war?
As President Trump has blatantly and frankly stated, it's obviously within the best interest of the United States and the West to no longer have a radical terrorist in charge of.
She's not answering the question. In fact, I can feel that she's a little bit caught off guard by how good of a question that was. She doesn't answer it.
Iran, especially as we see their reaction to Operation Epic Fury. They had their missiles turned towards our Gulf and Arab partners in the region. Again, this was a regime that chanted, or still chants, death to America. We look at the way that they are holding the entire world hostage with the restricting of the free flow of energy through the Strait of Hormuz. So the president, I think, is making quite an obvious comment. Again, as for the timeline of the military operations with respect to Iran, we have objectives that we have laid out that the commander-in-chief wants to see achieved. When they are achieved, then it will ultimately be up to the president to end this operation.
Okay. So I think you're not exactly addressing my question, though. Is that political objective also necessary for the president to decide to end this war?
Again, I just told you the objectives of Operation Epic Fury. When those objectives are met, the president will dictate the end of these operations when he deems that Iran no longer poses a credible threat to the United States of America.
Oh, just great, just beautiful. Trump is the one who decides when we start wars, and he's the one who unilaterally decides when the mission has been achieved or failed. Either way, he'll just claim success. I actually want to take it a step back because there is a new clip that just came out of Speaker of the House Mike Johnson being asked if Iran is getting intelligence from Russia, and guess what he says? He gives no strong answer and says he hasn't really heard about it.
Sources have told NBC, The Washington Post, and others that Russia has been providing intelligence to Iran about the location of U.S. forces. Obviously, that sounds very serious. As a member of a Gang of Eight, are you aware that this is in fact happening? And what do you think the response should be by the United States?
We've not had a gathering of the Gang of Eight since, I think, maybe a few days after the operation began. So that was new information when it came out yesterday, and I'm here and have not been in the skiff for a confidential briefing, but the president commented yesterday, if indeed Russia is helping them, they're not doing a very good job. And so we'll leave it at that. It would be a very serious thing if Russia were intervening in that way. I hope that it is not true.
Are we serious here? So everybody in this administration has either not heard of this or thinks it's not a big deal. Mike Johnson hasn't heard of it and thinks that even if it's happening, it's not that big of a deal because Russia isn't doing well. Trump said the same thing. He hasn't really heard of it, and if it is happening, Russia might not be doing a good job. Pete Hegseth is the only one who said he couldn't comment on it, I believe, but that's because I'm pretty sure lawyers are telling him not to comment on anything. He definitely will not comment on the 160 school children that were killed. And speaking of, let's take a listen to Karoline Leavitt getting confronted on that exact thing.
On the Iranian school, why did President Trump say yesterday that Iran may have Tomahawk missiles when there are only 3 other U.S. allies plus the U.S. that have those missiles and therefore could...
Look, again, the president said yesterday he will accept the conclusion of this investigation by the Department of War. I know there's been a lot of speculation in the media about who may be responsible for this. We're not going to get ahead of the Department of War and the conclusion of that investigation. The president has a right to share his opinions with the American public, but he has said he'll accept the conclusion of that investigation. And frankly, we're not going to be harassed by the New York Times, who's been putting out a lot of articles on.
Wait a minute. Okay, I'm so mind-boggled by what she just said. She just said multiple contradictory things, and let me break down exactly what I heard. She said in one breath, we do not want to get ahead of the Pentagon like the media is. We're not going to jump to conclusions like the media is. We're not going to get ahead of them. Then she says in the next breath, but the president has a right to share his opinions with the American people.
That investigation, and frankly, we're not going to be harassed by the New York Times, who's been putting.
And then she attacks the media for trying to draw up early conclusions after Trump was the one who jumped to conclusions. Wait, this is all contradictory. Listen to what she says.
Yesterday, he will accept the conclusion of this investigation by the Department of War. I know there's been a lot of speculation in the media.
Wait, there's been a lot of speculation about this, not from the media, but from Trump. Trump is the one speculating.
About who may be responsible for this. We're not going to get ahead.
You are the ones getting ahead of the Pentagon.
Of the Department of War and the conclusion of that investigation. The president has a right to share his opinions with the American public.
He is sharing his opinions, and sure, he has a right, but he is, while sharing his opinion, getting ahead of the Pentagon and trying to control the narrative. I am so effing sick of Karoline Leavitt and Trump supporters being like, oh, does Trump not have the right to share his opinion? And the opinion that he's sharing is that, like, J.B. Pritzker should be arrested, Alyssa Slotkin should be hung, or whatever he said a few months ago, that the 2020 election was stolen, and that we didn't kill school children in Iran. Like, that is Donald Trump just speaking his mind. If that's Donald Trump speaking his mind, then he is a demented old fuck who should not be the president. That's just the truth. I'm going to leave it there. We're in New York today, so drop a like, subscribe. I'll see you all in the next video, and peace out.